It's easy to dismiss pop art as a sham, and that's certainly been done many times over. I used to do it. Purveyors of pop art are perhaps pretentious in their elevation of the disposable, but its opponents can be just as much so in their rejection of the concept. Just because someone has decided that a painting that perfectly recreates a soup can is worth millions, while the soup can itself can be had for under $1, is no reason to throw the baby out with the bathwater. The key is to understand what's beautiful about the soup can in the first place. Andy Warhol personified the pop art movement more than anyone. It was probably called a hack 4 times for every time he was called a genius. Like most things, the truth exists somewhere in the middle. What brought me around was getting to understand that Andy and I just liked a lot of the same stuff. And he lucked into a really fun place to be by celebrating it in its own way. But it was really quite harmless. Being mad about Warhol is like being mad about a photograph of a banana split. His motto was, art is anything you can get away with. And you have to admit, that's at least a little bit charming. The guy who I'll never particularly respect is Roy Lichtenstein. Made millions selling and promoting enlarged, crude, simplified versions of comic book panels that he shamelessly copied. I might be reaching or somewhat blinded because this kind of thing tends to piss me off, but I would venture to guess that most of the people who bought this guy's work looked down upon comic books and would never have thought of them as art at all, highbrow or lowbrow. To make matters that much worse, a great portion of the artists he stole from never got credited for the comics that they did in the first place, even inside of the comics themselves. There's a great website called Deconstructing Roy Lichtenstein. It goes through, shows his art compared to the original comic book art, and gives you the name of all the original creators, meaning that you can go out and check out more of their work and learn more about them. That's the difference to me between good and bad pop art, strictly in its most commonly defined form. That's not really what I think of as pop art, though, when I think of pop art. I think the real pop art is in the comics and cans, not the well-known guys who put what they saw already into another canvas. Modern artist Jackson Pollock once opined that it was silly to ask what his art meant when nobody is ever particularly interested in knowing the deeper meaning behind a flower bed. I think we'd all be appreciating art at its best capacity if we eliminated much of that critical instinct to overanalyze. For a couple of months in 1965, publisher Martin Goodman, ever mindful of profitable trends, changed the name of his company from Marvel Comics Group to Marvel Pop Art Productions. Fan mail on the subject was immediately negative, as is often the case with any change in a popular product. The name was quickly changed back. It's worth pondering. Is it possible that Marvel, adapting the very name of the movement, elevating and proclaiming the original work of their artists as viable art, so early and vocally in the life of the term pop art, and letting it stick would have meant greater respect in the long run? We'll never know because someone was afraid that they might lose a couple of dimes. There's irony in there somewhere. My name is Rocco Jerome. That's R-O-C-K-O. If you dig what I have to say, find me on Facebook. Signing off.